This is Charter Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerantz, and we are joined today by Jim McDonnell. He is the sheriff for Los Angeles County. He's been in that position for just under a year. How is your new job, sir?
No, it's going great. It is a 7-day-a-week job.
No
There's
doubt.
an awful lot going on, but I look at every day and realize how privileged I am to work with the men and women of the department and the relationship that we enjoy then as well with the law enforcement community in LA County at the local, state, and federal level.
Sure.
We've got a team that works well together, and we're able to get pretty good results as.
And you entered at a arguably difficult time. The department had seen some indictments of some of its senior leadership. Police officers in general are seen less positively than they were, let's say, after 9/11.
Right.
And so how are you managing? How are your colleagues managing?
Yeah, it is probably the most challenging times in policing probably since the 60s.
Really?
Absolutely. And you look at what we've seen, say, post-Ferguson, that was
Right.
kind of a tipping point, if you will, and then all of the issues across the country since then, that there's been kind of a rush to judgment on issues that later investigation shows did not happen the way they did, and that's, frustrating, demoralizing in the sense that you go out there and you put it all on the line,
Right.
and you hope to get the public support. When you look across the nation and you realize that there's 900,000 cops for a population of 330
Right.
million people, that's 1/3 of 1% of the country is charged with the protection of the rest of the country. And so obviously we cannot do it alone. We need the public's help, we need the public support to be able to do the job the way we need to.
And here in Los Angeles County, which hasn't seen as much tension as other places, I think it's fair to say,
Yeah.
are you receiving that support from the public? Because, look, you've taught me, you can't solve crime without the public.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
so is the public still there for you, your colleagues in the Sheriff's Department?
I believe that the community, the silent majority, if you will, are certainly very supportive of the police and the need to have more police. Even as you look across the country, in the areas that are impacted by violence and unrest, they still believe there should be more police. They just want the police to treat them differently,
Right.
if you will. In Los Angeles County, I believe we're very fortunate. And when we saw unrest in other major urban areas across America and didn't see them in Los Angeles, I don't believe it was by accident. It was because of the relationships
Right.
we had built together, the police and the community, since 1992.
It's interesting you say that. I recently heard an interview with Connie Rice. I'm sure you know Connie
sure.
Rice. She is a civil rights icon here in this community. And the reporter was pushing her to offer her assessment of race relations between police and the community, and she was very clear that race relations have improved.
Yeah.
As much as people want to say they haven't,
Yeah.
she, and someone who was very critical of the police in the 90s, was very clear that she feels as if, she was talking about the LAPD, but as a general proposition,
Right,
LAPD, LASD, that we are in a better place.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. We've worked very hard, since 92 in particular, with the unrest of that era, in moving forward, developing relationships with communities we didn't have them previously,
Right.
and building on the great foundation we had with so many other communities and taking it to the next level. So I believe that when we saw unrest around the country, we didn't see it here because of those pre-existing relationships.
I want to ask you about an initiative that passed on the same day you were elected sheriff, and that was Proposition 47.
Right.
That initiative essentially reclassified certain crimes that were either low-level felonies or wobblers to misdemeanors.
Right.
Most of them being drug possession offenses. There were others, but for our purposes today, I'd like to focus on the drug possession offenses. How has Prop 47 on that front played out for law enforcement?
It has not played out well. When you look at where we are today, we had 10 years of significant crime decline. That turned around right after 47 went into place, and now we've seen substantial upticks in both property and violent crime since that time.
Why do you believe that to be true? What is it about the failure to arrest low-level possessors of drugs? What causes that to cause the uptick in crime?
Well, I'm glad you put the low level in quotes, because when you look at it, it's possession of marijuana, cocaine, PCP, methamphetamine, heroin. Those are...
It's higher level drugs. It's
yeah,
not just
serious,
pot.
They're
Right.
very serious drugs. And when you look at it, it also then made a misdemeanor out of what were previously grand theft crimes.
Right.
That are now theft under $950 is a misdemeanor, not just once, but every time. So you basically get a citation with the promise to appear, 60% don't. And likewise for the drug possession.
It's interesting you say 60% don't. Why? Why are they not appearing?
Because they're drug addicts, and the court date doesn't have a lot of meaning to them. Getting their next fix is really what they're focused on.
And you mentioned the next fix, and I have learned that part of the challenge under the 47 regime is that when you had these possession offenses being wobblers, the DA could say, well, look, if you choose to go into rehabilitation, a drug program, we'll charge it as a misdemeanor, and therefore you won't have a felony on your record. But now they don't have that option. Is that what you're seeing, sir?
No, absolutely. I think we all share in the intent of 47 to be able to get people into treatment rather than incarceration. And that works well for everybody when it works. The challenge is when you have someone who's addicted to drugs or substance abuse of any kind, in order to be able to get them into treatment, there has to be an incentive to get there or a disincentive not to.
Right.
So doing time in county jail or in prison was the incentive, okay, I'll rather go to treatment. That has been taken away. So now rather than being in treatment or being in custody, they're on the street and they're reoffending.
Is there a silver lining in that because there are fewer folks that are being arrested for these lower level drug offenses, there's more jail beds in the county jail, and therefore those folks with more serious offenses are able to serve longer sentences because you're not having to get people out to bring new people in?
Yeah, in a perfect world there would be. In our world, in LA County in particular, we were only able to hold people who were sentenced to doing about 20% of their time because of overcrowding issues. So we've been able, with fewer people coming in the front door, able to increase that at one point to 90 to 100%. It's now back down to 70%. But to try and create a disincentive and to try and uphold the judge's wishes to be able to have them do the time that they were sentenced to. That has gone up, so there is not more bed space as some anticipated, or monetary savings that would then go into treatment programs, unfortunately.
So there have been significant rumblings in Sacramento to try to fix whatever that means, Prop 47. It could be fixing the issue of being able to collect DNA samples. That has been an issue. It could be gun theft. I mean, if a gun is worth less than $950, it becomes a misdemeanor. The date rape drugs. What can you tell us about those attempts at fixes?
All those attempts, were steps in the right direction. They were all defeated, either by the legislature or vetoed by the governor. So we're in a position where we've tried to systematically, step by step, make this better for everyone. We have not been successful, and I think what it'll take is us being able to capture the stats necessary to make the case, and maybe to go back to the voters on this proposition and say, we all agree with the intention. How do we get to the desired outcome, but do it in a way that makes sense? Because what we've got now, there was no money front-loaded for treatment. So there are no treatment options in the,
it's
or not no treatment,
to come
but fewer
in,
than needed.
But you're right, though. There was no front-loaded money. I guess it's supposed to arrive next summer. Is that right?
It goes to the state. The issue is that the money was going to be savings that was gained by lowering the number of people who are incarcerated. In LA County, that number was not lowered because we upped the time that they're actually doing to hold them more accountable.
Do you anticipate that we will see an initiative to reform Prop 47?
You know, I think we need to come together, and we've come together on a number of occasions to talk about this within the criminal justice system, and the whole system has to operate as a system. But to be able to put something together where the prosecutors, the public defenders, the judges can all agree that we need to go in a certain direction, and then to have a coherent strategy to be able to get there, maintaining the intent of 47, but doing it in a way that we achieve it.
He is Jim McDonnell. He is the sheriff of Los Angeles County. My name is Brad Pomerantz in Long Beach, California. This is Charter Local Edition.